Hot Property, brought to you by Tribute Communities, a tradition of excellence. And by Al Sinclair, list, buy, sell. We make it that easy. And by monstermortgage.ca. Live a monster life.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Hot Property. This is our year-end special. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are, of course, the interactive real estate show right here on CP24, and I am Teddy Wilson. Glad you're with us. A lot to discuss on this episode as we look back at the year that was in real estate. And as always, we want to hear from you. You can drop us your emails, hotproperty@cp24.com, and we will be opening the viewer mailbag later on in the show. Now, here to look back at the year in real estate, our friends Al Sinclair from Remax Hallmark Realty, Diane Alvarez of Monster Mortgage, and Andrew Kotz from Tribute Communities. Welcome to you all. Happy almost end of the year.
Thanks, Teddy.
Happy holidays.
What a year that it was, right? Especially in the world of real estate. There's a lot to discuss, and let's start by taking a look at some of the key numbers. Perhaps the most impactful from this past year, the Bank of Canada's interest rate. In January 2022, it was 0.25%. As we head toward the new year, it's climbed to 4.25%. The average price of a Canadian home in January was $749,326, and as of October, that was down to $644,000 and change, down around $100,000. The average price of a home in the GTA has fallen by about $160,000, and rents in the GTA have climbed around $400 a month across the spectrum, especially recently, and that covers 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. Now, the market outlook for 2022 at the beginning of the year had called for very strong sales in the GTA, with the average selling price expected to hit a new record. Instead, took a bit of a turn around late spring, early summer, and the forecast home price was missed by about $140,000, and about 30,000 less homes were sold than originally projected. So looking back at the year, I mean, it's really fascinating, right? Because when we started, we were still in that peak that we saw in 2021, super low interest rates beginning to come out of COVID, and then a turn happened in the summer. It seems like things have stabilized a bit more recently, but Al, when we look back at the year, I mean, it was a real roller coaster ride, wasn't it?
And it hit us hard. And,
yeah.
You know, we were on a record year up until, about the middle of March.
Right.
And, you know, looking at the numbers going, this is crazy, man. This is going to be a, really, really good year. And then the taps just shut off. And,
right.
Interest rates started going up. There started becoming a little bit of negativity in the media, not on this show, but a little bit of negativity in the media. And it seemed to steamroll a little bit. But, looking back, at the time as we went through April, May, June, July, I would thought, December 29th now, it would have been horrific. But you know what? We're still here. We're still smiling.
Yeah.
And the market is actually pretty good. It's becoming more like a balanced market.
Right.
So, we've really shown that we can get through the worst of times. And it's because I think a lot of the immigration, is coming. People still have to find a home, and that's going to continue.
Yeah.
And interest rates are still historically, pretty low.
Yeah.
And so that's saving us as well. Looking back, it's been a roller coaster ride, but you know what? Like I said, we're still here, we're still positive, and I'm looking forward to a better 2023.
Yeah, well, in these last few months, according to the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, a bit of a stabilization in terms of prices and everything. Diane, looking back at the beginning of the year, as we said, that Bank of Canada rate, almost zero. Obviously, they brought it down so low to stimulate the economy as we came out of COVID. But in terms of these last 7 rate hikes that we've seen now, have they gone the way you thought they would? Has anything surprised you in the last year? I mean, I think the last year has really surprised everybody.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? There was a dramatic shift over the year.
Yeah.
But I think it really hit us in the summer when we had that first very large rate increase, which was 1% all at once.
Right.
And that really impacted everybody and every demographic. So, we had to, go back and take a look at how we could put people's minds at ease.
Right.
Because we were getting a lot of calls at that time, trying to, people sorting through their renewals and their purchase transactions. So, it's definitely been a roller coaster year. But we made some changes. We're dealing now more with alternative lenders than we ever have. They're becoming more mainstream. So we found some workarounds in trying to get people to achieve what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But it really hit us because the stress test that came at a time when also the lenders were cutting back on their general regulations, like they're really tightening their usual underwriting guidelines. At the same time, that the stress test was still 2%, and that hasn't changed. But with the bank rate increase, the prime rate went up and so forth. So, we had to deal with that all at once, and then the property value. The property values didn't necessarily change, but when that rate hit, the appraisers became more conservative. So everything came at once, but as Al suggested, you always find a way to get through it. Rates are still historically low. It's more of a qualification issue, and we'll find a way around that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's important to remember. We're still in a low-rate environment. Obviously not the environment we were at the beginning of the year, but that was a historical anomaly. Andrew, after the break, we're kind of going to look forward with some thoughts and predictions for 2023, and especially in terms of your side, like new builds, new construction. But when you look back at the year, from your perspective, working for Tribute, what were your thoughts on the year? Obviously, there were supply chain issues. Shortage of skilled labor made it difficult for the construction industry. But what do you think when you look back at the year?
Well, it was a fantastic year. There's a lot of support in the marketplace. Home ownership is very important to Canadians, right? So the absorption rates are there, but in terms of, to summarize the year, it was a year in terms of improving the new home housing market and addressing our supply issues and addressing the red tape and bringing in a new bill, and it was top of mind of a lot of the political parties from a federal, provincial, and municipal level. And we've always said, as an industry, they all have to sing from the same choir. One won't happen without the other. So it's a positive conversation to put our best foot forward and tackle those items, especially like the low-hanging fruit, removing that red tape so we can bring supply to the market faster, because we're at all-time low, which is actually a good thing, because as I mentioned, it's not like inventory was flooded and brought prices down tremendously. People are getting adjusted in the last 12, 18 to 24 months of what the whole economy has been going through. So I think we're doing really well. 2023 will be a lot better, and I look forward to talk about those items in the next segment.
Well, and you bring up a good point. The three levels of government, not always the best at working together in terms of legislation around housing and real estate. The situation this year did get them on the same book to some degree.
Correct.
And obviously the government in the last few weeks passed their bill, the More Homes Built Better Act. So that's really interesting. Just quickly, before we go to break, for the three of you, you've all been in this world, in real estate, in new builds and in mortgages for quite a while. Have you ever seen anything like this year, just in terms of the different turns that were taken? Have you ever seen anything like this here?
Well, I've been in this business since '87, and in '89, it crashed. Right. It literally crashed, where people were losing their homes. I was getting a power of sale a week from the bank.
Really?
And it was, you're not seeing that right now. You're not seeing power of sales. People are, they're hanging tough, and they're not putting their houses on the market if they don't have to. Back then, people were just selling for anything because interest rates were up around 20%. So it was really bad in '89, and I'd just been in the business 2 years, and I was kind of wondering, what am I doing? With this career, I think I made a mistake, but hung in there. It actually didn't turn around for about 4 or 5 years. It was 1994 when things started to pick up again.
Right.
So this is nothing. This is nothing. We're very fortunate. We've got low interest rates. We've got smart sellers that aren't just panicking, because there's no reason to panic. But this is nothing compared to '89.
We'll go to break in a second, but just, Diane, quickly, Al mentioned those 20% rates late 80s. So this does not compare to that.
Absolutely not. And we haven't seen the defaults. The default rate from the lender's perspective on mortgages and other debt is nowhere near the level that it was back then. So, I think we'll be able to come with some resolve before we get to that stage. But I think everybody just needs to really keep an eye on their household debt. Because that's going to be, at the end of the day, that's going to be what brings us down.
And Andrew, just quickly, you ever seen anything like this year?
No. There's a whole generation that haven't seen this increase of mortgage rates that rapidly, right, in the last 5 to 10 years. And I can't speak to the 20% days of mortgage interest rates, but there's a whole slew of homeowners that haven't seen it, and they're getting adjusted accordingly. And they've done a pretty good job, right? So it's all positive signs for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, perfect. Well, when we return to this year-end special of Hot Property, we're going to talk to Diane, Al, and Andrew about some of the most frequently asked questions that they've had during the year, and we're going to look ahead to what could be in store for 2023. So we'll see you after the break, but until then, we want to hear from you. Keep your questions coming by email, hotproperty@cp24.com. There it is on the screen, and we'll see you after the commercial. Hey there, my friends, and welcome back to our year-end special on Hot Property. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to be taking your viewer questions just a bit later in the show. But before that, we talked before the break, a bit of a look back at this kind of interesting, very anomalous year, 2022, in real estate. But now, let's look forward a little bit. Diane, I'll start with you. You know, we talked about the fact that rates are at a very different place. Next rate announcement is in early January.
Late January, yeah.
Late January, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And, you know, Tiff Macklem, Governor of the Bank of Canada, came out with a statement a few days ago saying that he would rather raise rates too much than too little. So as somebody with a variable rate mortgage, I wasn't super excited about that statement. But I mean, nobody really knows what's going to happen. It will depend on inflation numbers. So we always say on this show, none of us have a crystal ball. But looking forward to 2023, what are your thoughts, especially in terms of the rate environment that we're going to be in?
Yeah, and I think we're going to see the rates stay around where they are for 2023.
Yeah.
So, you know, they may go up another 0.25%, but even if it stays the same, I don't think that the economy is in a position yet where they're going to start to decrease rates.
Yeah.
Certainly not in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to budget for their shelter. Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think we'll see people making a little bit of a lifestyle change just to make sure that they're comfortable to weather the balance of this storm.
Yes.
I mean, we're still in correction mode, but, you know, we're near the end. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm encouraged in that respect as well. But I'm still getting questions because you had mentioned, you know,
Yeah.
what are the questions they were seeing?
Yeah.
And the biggest question for us is still, should I go fixed or variable?
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
So no matter
Yeah.
what the conditions in the rate environment, people are still considering variable.
Yep.
So and it's still viable depending on what your outlook is. So I would suggest people to take a look at where do you think you're going to be 12 to 18 months from now?
Yeah.
And that very much plays into which term you should select.
There you go. And that's the biggest question you're getting, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Andrew mentioned the provincial government's new legislation to promote more new housing supply. That's received royal assent recently. Looking forward to 2023. What do you think the outlook's going to be in terms of new construction?
Well, I can tell you right now, Teddy, that there's units in the pipeline that are going to be released in Q1 and Q2 of 2023.
Right.
You know, there is an appetite for it simply because of the amount of inventory we have on the high-rise and low-rise side. It's all-time lows. So
Yeah.
with the continued amount of immigration coming into the country and you know, rental rates, right? They
Yeah.
work as an investment for a you know, condominium currently. So it's great that we have these tools to tackle the supply, and I mentioned in the previous segment that we could tackle the low-hanging fruit,
Yes.
remove that red tape, and bring units to the marketplace faster with regards to approvals and you know, servicing the sites, selling and building. So it's a fantastic opportunity for 2023.
That's great. Al, obviously, you know, real estate agents representing us as buyers and sellers also can be an emotional process for people. So in terms of the clients that you're working with, what are you hearing as we kind of go into the new year? And what's your outlook for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you hear the same questions you get on the show. You know, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? And I can answer that probably with both questions with the same answer. Is as a buyer and as a seller, it's a balanced market. Right now, it seems like a good time to get in because interest rates are still, you know, historically on the low side.
Yeah.
There's not the bidding wars going on, that's for sure. So that's good for the buyers. For the sellers, there are buyers out in the market. You know, we had a couple sales recently, and these were things that I took off the market after 7 days because we didn't hit the number we wanted, but we terminated them. And then I got 2 of these. They came back 3 months later and bought them. The buyers did. So that's how positive the buyers are in the market.
Right.
So things that, you know, are still selling, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Even things that didn't sell in the summertime. But overall, it looks like it's going to be a balanced market. And, you know, as an agent, you've got to be positive. You can't be doom and gloom because people are making a purchase.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure it's a positive process. And you got to believe in what you say.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. You know, I truly believe in the Toronto real estate market. I think real estate is the best investment you'll ever make in your life. And you just got to get into the market, and as we say in the business, better at today's prices.
Yeah, great point. Okay, Andrew, we want to highlight a great new Tribute community that you've got. We're talking about Viewpoint condominiums. We're Tower 2 in Pickering, right?
Yep, we're headed to Pickering and to cap off 2022, one of the most successful projects in Durham for sure. It's the second tower over at Highway 401 in Liverpool, the best location in Pickering in Tribute's backyard. Our head office is located in Pickering. You can walk to the Pickering GO Station, Pickering Town Center, shopping, retail, trails, and conservation areas. It's the tallest tower out of the 3 master plan community, 53 floors. So it'll definitely have a presence in Pickering for sure. The views will be fantastic. We specifically designed the balconies once you're out there to have lake water views. So
wow, nice.
Definitely excited about that. Building amenities second to none. Fitness center with your cardio and weight room, business lounge, theater and games room, party room that spills outside with barbecue areas and dining, 24-hour concierge. We're currently offering one of the best down payment structures in the marketplace. We're looking at collecting 20% down over every year, so October of 2023 all the way out to October of 2026, and we have a later closing here, mid 2028. Our sales office will reopen January 2nd.
Great.
In the meantime, you could find information online at mytribute.ca.
There you go, mytribute.ca for all the info. Great looking views there too. Okay, up next we are going to be opening the viewer mailbox. Our panel will answer some of your questions, so we'll be getting to those in just a minute. And keep your questions coming. As always, hotproperty@cp24.com. See you in just a minute. Hey, my friends, and welcome back to Hot Property. Let's get to some of your viewer questions now. Here to answer them, our friends Al Sinclair from Remax Hallmark Realty, Diane Alvernaz of Monster Mortgage, and Andrew Kotz from Tribute Communities. So a question comes in from Stephanie. Stephanie says, will we see a dip in condo prices in the new year? Will it be a good time to try to get into the market as a first-time buyer? Stephanie, that is a great question. Al, what would you say?
Well, in 2022, we had a lot of negativity, and we had some challenges in the market, but the condo market did really, really well. So if it did well in 2022, it's going to do really well in 2023.
Yeah.
And we own a bunch of condos. We're not in any rush to sell them because they're only going to go up in value. And you've still got the immigration factor. People are coming in here and they're looking at what's most affordable, and that's the condo market. They get in the cheaper units and they move everybody else up, or some out to the housing market.
Right.
So yeah, get into the market, get into the condo market now as soon as you can.
Yeah, I bought my first ever place back in 2022, like when the market was pretty high, but I don't regret it. It's a great place, and as you say, there's been a lot of resilience in the condo market.
Yeah,
too.
you need a place to live. It's a forced savings. You're paying your mortgage down, and what's the option? Renting, and then the landlord gives you notice after a year, or you're living in a rental place that's they're not as nice as the resales. Obviously, the place you live in, you make your own. So it's definitely a great time. I think a very good time to get in. Yeah,
and rental market's been tough lately, as we've talked about on the show. And Andrew, what about you in terms of specifically the condo side of the market? What are your thoughts for Stephanie?
Yeah, for sure. The pre-construction side, you're not going to see any price adjustments for that matter. There's just a lot of particulars happening. Hard costs, soft cost, inclusionary zoning, all the increased DCs. There's all these factors contributing to it in terms of price per foot. On a global scale, Toronto, it's a good deal.
Yeah, and Diane, just quickly, advice for a first-time buyer like Stephanie. Any thoughts?
Absolutely. I would encourage Stephanie to call us so we can do a pre-approval.
Yeah.
And as I suggested earlier, the alternative lenders are becoming more mainstream. And now I'm looking at a pre-approval based on that criteria as well. So it's not just can you purchase with 5% down.
Yeah.
Although if you're purchasing with less than 20% down and it's insured, then you are qualifying for the very best rates in that price range, in the condo price range.
Yeah.
So either way, definitely investigate further.
Good point. Okay, well, up next, we'll tackle another one of your real estate questions. That's coming up after the break. And please keep emailing us your questions as always. We love getting them. hotproperty@cp24.com. See you in a second. Welcome back to Hot Property. Time for one more question. That comes from Dawn, and she says, I have a $190,000 mortgage with a variable rate that's increased from 1.34 to 4.84%. Do I stay the course in the hopes that rates will reduce in 2023 or switch to a fixed for the remainder of the term until July 2026? Diane, what would you say? Hold or switch?
You know, I would say we really need to determine what the discount to the prime rate is.
Yes.
Because it's not really making sense in those, like, I'm not sure we're working with current rates on that.
Right.
Please give us a call and we'll go through it specifically based on the actual scenario.
Got it. Okay, final thoughts for the year-end show. Al, any final thoughts?
Well, I hope everyone has a happy holidays and a safe and happy holidays and very prosperous and happy New Year.
Awesome. Well said. Andrew, final thoughts for the year?
Happy New Year. Happy holidays. I think 2023 is going to be great for sure.
That's awesome. And Diane, from you?
Just to remind people to budget for shelter in 2023.
Yes.
It's all good.
Yeah.
We'll see you next year.
That's great. Well, thanks to you all so much for the conversation and the insight, as always, throughout the year. And thank you for watching. If you missed us, hey, you can always catch us online. Just go to cp24.com, click on video, and then select Hot Property, or follow us on Twitter. We are CP24 Hot Property. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Teddy Wilson. Have a safe and happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Hot Property, brought to you by Tribute Communities, a tradition of excellence. And by Al Sinclair, list, buy, sell. We make it that easy. And by monstermortgage.ca. Live a monster life. The opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the participants and do not reflect the opinion or policy of CP24. CP24 does not endorse or represent any product featured or discussed on this program.